Good morning. This session is going to be in English. And first of all, Margrethe, I want to say thank you for being here, for taking the time to be at our party assembly. But I think even more, thank you for inspiring me, inspiring many politicians all over Europe, inspiring many women in this continent.
Thank you.
With the work you are doing, with the bravery you have.
Thank you.
And yes, thank you for being here and for being in Europe.
Well, thank you very much.
And like Katharina already said, yesterday you had the opportunity to ask some questions and we selected some of them. I'm just going to start. And the first question is going to be, you are a passionate European and an experienced EU Commissioner. Where do you see the EU's greatest challenges in the upcoming years? And what are the greatest challenges when you see like the next 10 years?
Well, how long do you have?
I think we have half an hour.
I know that you are used to doing things in full. A 4-day Congress is really impressive. But I will just give you the short list, because the bad news is that the challenges are getting bigger. There's a war in Europe. There's a war in the Middle East. We're not anywhere close to keeping our climate promises. People all over the planet have long felt the effects, and we feel them in Europe as well. People are being killed, farmers cannot harvest their crops, businesses are being disturbed. And then there is Europe in the world. Are we sufficiently competitive? Can we make it? Can our green technologies make it out there? Are we competitive towards China? Can we make it towards the US? And then we have enlargement coming. But all of these actually are challenges that can be overcome if we can overcome the main challenges, which is always, can we cooperate? Can we overcome ourselves and our differences to find solutions?
The second question would be, how can we and also the EU Commission contribute to ensure that very high levels of wealth are taxed more fairly and at the same time prevent states in the EU from continuing to create tax avoidance opportunities? Well,
you see my gray hairs? they come from trying to address this. But maybe just one more thought on your first question, because the thing is that we have shown that we can do it. During the pandemic, Europe worked together, because every government realized that we can only deliver to our own citizens if we have a European solution. So we got the vaccine strategy, we got the Corona Pass, we got the green lanes. We got every second vaccine ever produced in Europe to be exported outside of Europe. In the energy crisis, we secured the molecule. We diversified to LNG. Germany played a huge role in doing that, Habeck in particular. So we have shown that we can do it. We have active memory of solving the biggest issues. So do not let the slow catastrophes make us forget how strong we are when we work together. And this is not theory. When it comes to taxation, you know, European countries, by the treaty, they have the freedom to set their own taxes. But we do have legislation that obliges member states to work together, so that any tax authority not only knows the first and the third and the 13th chapter of a business's tax history, but that they know every chapter of that tax history. And we have been looking at member states who have been too generous to say to this specific company, you can have this deal that no one else can have. We've had some success at the courts. We've had some failures at the court. Now our biggest tax case is in front of the ECJ, the European Court. We just had the comfort that the Advocate General sides with us in the Apple case, but we'll see what the court says in the last place. But the biggest thing is that citizens demand tax justice. Because all the small companies, they work really, really hard to make a profit. From that profit, they pay their taxes to finance the roads, the railroads, the new electricity grid, the health system, the educational system. And they are faced with competitors who do not pay the same taxes. And that, for every citizen, ought to be a call for action.
Something we are also working on, and we're also, I think, going to discuss in the program a little later. You talked about a lot about collaboration within the EU, and I think one subject where this is also very important is social media. We work on competition and also in digital strategies. And the third question would be, it increasingly seems that especially young people use social media as their main or maybe even their only source of information, even though those are heavily pre-filtered by the respective algorithms. And the question would be, what strategies is the European Union pursuing to counteract an increasing lack of information due to filter bubbles and also the risks this is posing to our democracy?
Well, we have always been filtered. And people probably started lying before they learned to speak. Because we are manipulative creatures. The problem that we're faced with today is that the speed of filtering, the speed of spread of fake news and things that are simply not true is of a completely different dimension. Completely different dimension. And the thing is that the algorithm that will choose the next story for you is driven by commercial purposes, to make you stay on, to make you see the next advertising. Not as an old school paper that will tell you a bit about foreign affairs, something that happened domestically, a bit about sports and the latest in, I don't know, fishing. So you learned a bit about the world. Here, the risk is that you're just down the rabbit hole. Now European legislation will make sure that what is illegal offline in the real world is also illegal and treated as illegal online. And that is a huge European victory because in most states, hate is illegal. Just imagine how much hate speech that is out there. To keep women out of politics, to keep them quiet, to make sure that change is not happening. And the balance is there because if you're unhappy with your posting being removed, you can complain about it so that freedom of speech is secured. But the second thing is that we need to move there as well. The papers need to be on social media. The fact checkers need to be on social media. We need to be on social media. Look at the effect of Robert Habeck's speech about Palestine and Israel. So many people who felt the comfort of a balanced, nuanced view that took the time that it takes to deal with something as difficult. I think that's the way to go, to offer something substantial, real, but follow where we find the young people.
Thank you. And the first question, the fourth one, would be on, I think, a geostrategical subject. What is the EU's future role in socio-economic terms in relation to China and to the BRICS states?
Well, I'm sorry, but it starts with ourselves. How do we see ourselves towards the rest of the world? Because Europe used to travel with a pointed finger first, telling people what to do, how to live their life, how to get money. But no one wants to meet a pointed finger. They want to meet an outstretched hand. And that must be the approach to Europe. Of course, combined with making sure that we're safe. We need to take care of our economic security. So when we trade with other countries, that we make sure that we make our climate considerations, our security considerations, part of the package. Because Europe needs the courage to be out there. We should be more autonomous, yes, but it must be built on an open Europe, on an outgoing Europe, also when we are dealing with countries who have different systems, different approaches, because only in dealing with people who disagree with us can we make the progress that fulfill the promises that Europe has given of peace, prosperity, welfare, democracy, and rule of law.
And if you allow me, I would take a last question myself, if this is all right. Yesterday, when you arrived, you told me that this looks a little bit like a party assembly from your own party.
Only in extra large.
Yeah, I think it's the largest one we have had so far. And maybe, I mean, you have a lot of experience in politics altogether, and especially in European politics. If you think, what role can the Green Party play in Europe in the next years? Is there any tips you have for us?
Well, I think what happened with the pandemic, with the energy crisis, with war, is that we basically turned out the light behind us. There's only darkness. There's nothing to turn back to. There's only light ahead of us if we make it together. And I know it's a lot of time to use 4 days discussing programs, people, elections, lists. But it's also where you find the networking, the friendship that enables you to go out there and be a force for good, for the politics that you pursue. And I'm just very impressed. This is a bit like in my party. I'm from the Social Liberal Party in Denmark. With your processes, this is professional, this is chic, and yet it is still utterly democratic for members of the party, for the delegates, to have their say, to make it real politics about the societal changes. And I think the Greens plays a huge role here in how the party has transformed to transform center of politics, as it does in Germany, as it has done in Europe. And what we need right now is to show that centrist politics can deliver. Because everywhere in Europe, the right wing is moving forward. So everyone with this approach should hear the call, a simple call, to vote, to engage with other people, and to fight climate changes. Because that is what fundamentally preserves our democracy. And here you play an enormous role. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. Oh. Thank you so much, Margrethe. Keep applauding, it's okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
I think you can see that you not only inspire me, but I think many people in this room, many people in Europe. Thank you for your work.
Oh, thanks a lot. That's very kind of you. Thank you for all the work
you're going to do in the future. I think there's going to be so much ahead of us and ahead of you. Yeah. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. It was an honor for me to come. Thank you. Thank you. I think we leave this way.